I'm such a jerk, bro. Okay, so everybody that's just in here right now, I forgot to hit the record button, which is hilarious. But the story that we're going over right now, I'm actually happy that it happened that way, because Logan has been telling me some like extremely wild stuff about the Afghan withdrawal and his experience within the Marine Corps. And so, you know what, Logan, I'm just going to expedite this and just introduce you a little bit. Logan was an infantry Marine, right? Logan was an infantry Marine. He was also an embassy Marine. And so he spent time in a couple different embassies. He spent time up over in India and also over in Italy before he went over to 1-8 inside of North Carolina, correct?
That is correct.
And then they end up getting launched to go into Afghanistan for this withdrawal. Well, I guess they didn't get launched to go into Afghanistan. You guys got sent into Kuwait first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he gets into Kuwait and then learns from his parents, of all people. While he's in Kuwait, the U.S. has decided that we are going to evacuate Afghanistan and conduct a NEO, or a non-combatant evacuation operation. So Logan then boards a C-17, really big cargo aircraft. I think you can fit like 140 people on it or something like that, plus pallets down the middle.
Oh, we shoved our entire company in there.
Yeah, you can fit a company on that sucker. Yep. So Logan jumps on a C-17. He flies out. He lands in the middle of the night on the airfield, and everything's going great for him. Everything's going great for a couple days. And then let's start when you went to the Afghan compound to, like, you're there for like a day or two. You're staying up over by the U.S. terminal on the opposite side of the airfield. You told me earlier before we started recording that you had gone into that compound and that the Afghans just straight up rolled out.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that is like the foreshadowing, in my opinion, of what's to come.
Yeah. And not only was it the Afghans in the Air Academy that left, the next day, all the civilians that worked at the airport left as well. That was the telltale sign, when all the civilian like store owners left.
So the civilians end up rolling out.
Yep.
The Afghan actual military roll out.
Yep.
That's eerie, man. That sucks. That's really eerie. And then you woke up in the middle of the night. You get woken up in the middle of the night. What happened?
So originally we were told that the Taliban had taken over a C-17 and were holding reporters hostage. And
on the airfield.
On the airfield, yes. That's what we were originally told. So our plan was to basically surround the airplane and wait for SF dudes to go in there and do their thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Load up into Bearcats and roll out to the airfield. And we get out there, and it's not at all what we expect. We see thousands and thousands of Afghan civilians, families, women, children, just on the airfield. And we had no idea what was going to happen next.
So you literally were you able to see them before you got off the Bearcat?
No.
So the hatch pops for the Bearcat and the door opens. Like, what's that like, seeing a massive line of people? Because you said they'd advanced about 3/4 of the way across the airfield over towards the U.S. side. I mean, what's that like when you open that door and you see that?
It was scary. It was...
Thank you.
Unexpected.
You know, yeah. And that's the honest to God's truth. Like the most scared I had ever been in my military career. It wasn't in like firefights or anything like that. I was like when I was in the infantry over in Kirkuk, and there was just this gigantic wall of people that I pulled my Humvee up, kind of like you. And they were burning the freaking city down. I'm in the lead truck, door pops open, massive wall of people right in front of me. Massive wall of people. Gunner ends up getting hit in the face with a rock, but there's gunshots going off. I thought my gunner got shot in the head. Somebody else jumps up, and I'm like, yo, if I disappear into this crowd, I just want you to mow them down, you know? But like, that is the most scared I have. Like, it's just something about a massive wall of people. Like, you know, it doesn't matter. Like, I am helpless. I am just helpless at this point.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest feeling.
Yeah. There's nothing we could do.
So there's...
Sorry, go ahead.
Go.
It was just so surreal because you know, I'm a younger guy. I grew up, post 9/11, right? So I grew up with hearing stories of soldiers and Marines getting blown up by IEDs. And when we got out of the Bearcat, it was just a sea of people carrying backpacks and suitcases and handbags. And it was pitch black, and we had shitty PVS 14s, and we couldn't see a whole lot. So we were all like, "Oh shit, who's gonna clack off?"
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was thinking. I'm sure that's what most of the guys that were thinking as well.
Yeah. 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 100%. Like, how could that not be on your mind that there's at least one bad actor in a crowd of thousands?
Mm-hmm.
Were they like, were they kind of like contained like in a little crowd, or were they just like mass hysteria online, dragging bags, pushing across? Like,
Um, at the start, they were pretty much in a group. They were all very calm and cordial, and they were pretty, you know, I don't speak their language, but
sure.
some of them spoke English, and they were basically like, "We just want to leave. Like, we don't know what to do. We just want to leave." And we tried to explain, like, "Hey, you guys can't just come onto the airfield. You can't do that. There's like processes, there's security stuff we have to go through." But it didn't matter. They want to leave. But we pushed them back to the civilian side of the airport, and we set up triple strand concertina wire in between us and them. We just kind of waited.
And that's like a long haul, man. Like, I'd have to measure it out, but it's got to be at least like 800 meters or so from where you're describing all the way back to the other side.
Yeah.
At least, like, if not a kilometer plus. And so, like, how well did they take it when you guys were like, "Hey, no, go back that way"?
They were pretty unhappy. We tried to be respectful. We weren't very forceful. I mean, we were forceful, but we didn't like abuse them.
Right. So you basically have to get online and start like shoving them back and like walking forward and moving them back. Gosh, man.
That took us a few hours, and then we were just standing there.
A few hours to move like a kilometer, which is insane.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys got over there, set up triple strand.
Uh-huh.
Which, for those that don't know, triple strand concertina wire, it's like 2 rows of razor wire on the bottom and then one on the top. I mean, it's what, like 3-4 feet high? So
yeah, about that.
Like, you can run and jump over it, or you can body breach it, you know? Like, you could literally lay on top of it and then everybody can run across you. Like, did you guys, that's what we did in the Army infantry, to like body breach triple strand. So it's not like it was like this perfect barrier that you could count on, right?
No.
Ah, dude. So you're out there. Are you sleeping on the tarmac now because you've got this massive crowd of people on the other side?
No, we're not sleeping. We're just holding security, standing there, waiting for relief so we could take a break and try to get some rest and some food and water. Eventually, that relief does come. Right after dawn, we get about 10-15 minutes of sit-down time, and we look off to our right, and we just see a line of Afghan civilians just booking it across the tarmac. And we're like, "Oh shit!"
Like so 5 or like 50,
like,
or like 100. A never-ending string. What?
String. Yeah.
Oh my god.
That was really frustrating, and that took us a long time to deal with. That like a day or two, because they broke through that first time, and it was chaos. Afghans running everywhere. Our line was completely broken. We had no idea. We were like, all of our guys were separated from command, so we were just trying to do our best. I was holding down our food and water, because we had, where we were like taking a break, we had a pallet of MREs and a pallet of water, and me and a couple of Marines were just hanging out there trying to like, "Hey, this is ours, leave us alone," type thing. And eventually we started giving out MREs and water to the kids, because we noticed that none of the civilians had brought food or water for them and their families.
Right.
So we started handing out water and food to kids. I tried to hand a bottle of water to a girl, and some older gentleman, might have been her dad, might have been a grandpa, comes up and like snatches the bottle out of her hand, and I just like lose it. I'm like, what the f- are you doing? I shove him. I
Yeah.
try to give the water bottle back to the girl, but she runs off. And eventually we get a perimeter set up again. And then we just holding security there for a long time.
Just out there baking.
Yeah. With no food, no water.
Did you at least have a change of socks? Because that's like can make the world a difference.
No.
Oh, bro, that sucks.
Not at that moment.
Oh, that's horrible because that's the type of weather on the tarmac where you're like literally sweating through your boots. Like it will leak out your boots. It's, oh gosh. Okay. Oh man, that just makes it like so much more miserable. Like to wrap your brain around that. And if you don't got to change of socks, I know you don't got your toothbrush. I know you don't.
With me. It was in my pack back at where we were setting up, but
Were you a smoker or a dipper?
at the time, yeah.
Oh God, how bad did your mouth taste after like a couple days of that?
It was bad. It was
Yeah.
a fun experience.
Right. Yeah. Stinky. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right, man. So you're out there stinky and all that. Everything comes. I think you told me that it was, you couldn't remember if it was like the 10th Mountain or the 82nd had showed up to help you all out. And so you got a little bit of like relief off of all of
got a
that.
little bit of relief. They were very helpful with holding the line and stuff because at the time it was about 400 of us of Marines there because we were the first company there, and the other two were holding security at other places at the airport. So it was pretty much just us on the airfield.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Dude. Okay. So when did you hear that you're going to start jamming people on aircraft, your SIV holders and everybody else?
That was I think it was a couple days later. We had to get a perimeter set up, and command had to figure out what was going to go on. And then we were assigned to Northgate. That's where I was for most of the time that we were there.
Okay.
So we were at our ROEs for who we could accept, or not ROEs.
Marching orders, basically.
Yeah, our marching orders, they basically changed what felt like on an hourly basis. Because it started with, hey, nobody gets in until they can get vetted, right? And then a couple hours later was like, oh, if they have this piece of paperwork, they can come in.
Now, did they have an example piece of paperwork to show you?
Yes, they did.
Did you? Were you guys able to retain a copy to like look back and forth and be like, this looks real, not fake?
I believe so. I didn't have a copy, but I believe someone else in our squad did, or our platoon or whatever.
Okay.
But it basically changed almost immediately because we started seeing we were letting people in with this specific document, and then I'm forgetting all the acronyms now. Basically, the state guys, the secret squirrel guys, were like, "Hey, stop letting people in with this paperwork. They're just copying it and printing it out."
Yep.
And we're like, "Okay, then what do you want us to do?" And then it was just so confusing, and we didn't, we were searching people and not searching people. They could bring their bags in, they couldn't bring their. It changed so much, and it was so.
Just hour by hour, they're telling you, hey, don't do this, change this up, do this instead. After they went through,
it felt like it, yeah.
After they went through you guys, who did they go to next? Like you do the initial screening, I'm assuming, and then somebody else had to have taken a second look before they're like, cool, get on this airplane and get flown to a coalition nation.
Yeah. So we were basically, I don't know exactly who was checking the paperwork before they got on a plane, but they definitely were at some point checked. But we were just, pick a guy out from a crowd, bring him in, search his bag, and then send him off to get vetted.
Dude. So I heard a tale I'm very curious. I heard a tale that when Tim Kennedy showed up on his private airplane, that he went over and he was helping out with an NGO, and he was given a 44 passenger bus, right? And told to go pick up people with SIVs outside the gate over by, and he basically shoved the bus full of children that didn't have paperwork and dumped them off, and it caused the entire day's worth of operations to get shut down. Does that sound on par with something you may or may not have heard while you were there?
I believe that is on par. What I was, so I think he went through Eastgate, and I was not at Eastgate, but I did know someone who was there. And basically what I was told was Tim Kennedy came in and was like, I'm helping these people. We need to get them on a plane immediately. And our Marines were like, who the f- are you? You don't have paperwork. We're not listening to you. And then it was a big like yelling match between him and our command until we were finally given the orders to let him through.
Like, I want to know whether or not he did that using his official credentials. Because if he pulled up to the gate, because number one, he wasn't over there on orders. He flew in on his own. And I want to know if when he pulled up to that gate, if he whipped out his DOD ID card and was like, I'm Tim F. Kennedy. I'm an SF dude. Let me through the gate. Because he was not over there on orders at all.
He might have tried to do that. I don't know for certain. So I won't speak on exactly what happened.
How long did those like how badly did that F up operations?
Pretty bad. It was more frustrating for the guys at Eastgate because they were also letting guys in there, and it basically shut them down completely because the bus was in the way. We couldn't let anyone else in, type thing. At least from what I told. I wasn't at Eastgate. I'm not speaking on firsthand knowledge.
Yeah, but I mean, it's pretty, I mean, let's be honest, you know, when something like that happens, like you hear about it.
Yeah.
So I get it's hearsay. I heard it firsthand from somebody else, which is why I knew to ask you. Yeah. I heard it shut down operations for almost the entire day because he had packed so many people on that bus. And it wasn't just him. It wasn't just one bus. It was like he was given, like him and his buddies had multiple buses that they pulled in. So it wasn't like it was just one bus. It was like a train of them.
And it was multiple trips too, from what I remember.
And nobody had the proper freaking paperwork.
No.
And so it just screwed everything up. And this is what pisses me off. And I guess the stance that I got told, and this was from somebody that was particularly pissed off at him for doing this, was his stance was like, it doesn't matter. They're kids. Like, you don't have a heart, like type shit. And
in a perfect world, that makes sense, but it's not a perfect world, unfortunately.
Right. It frustrates me, man, because like the amount of like buddies I've had call me from over there. And when I mean buddies, I mean like Afghan local nationals that I've signed my name to that say, yes, please let this individual come to the United States, that have contacted me ever since that. Mm-hmm. They might have been able to get on those aircraft and get back to the United States. And people don't understand that. Like after that, dude, they were all being hunted down by the Taliban.
Yeah. It got bad for them pretty quick after we left, almost immediately.
I was talking to a buddy of mine on the phone who was trying to get to the airport. And I've talked about this on the other podcast, but like, you know, I'm literally talking to him on the phone and he tells me he's like approaching the airport, but there's a Taliban checkpoint ahead. Mm-hmm. And as he's approaching this Taliban checkpoint, like I hear a gunshot, I hear him go, oh shit. And like, you just hear him like, like rip off. I'm like, bro, what happened, man? And he's like, yeah. They literally just like they were going through someone's phone and they just blasted him in the face. And so like what I ended up finding out later on was that anybody that had any English writing on their paperwork, anybody that had English on their cell phone, anybody that had a American looking name as a contact, they were just executing as they were going up.
Disgusting.
All right, man. So you've got this issue running through documents, paperwork checks and stuff. And I look, you know, I talked to a guy from the 82nd that was over there, and he was on I can't remember if it was Northgate. I can't remember what gate they ended up getting sent to. But they're, again, you know, they're screening paperwork, they're doing all that stuff, but they didn't get what you got even.
Well, it didn't start like that. We were just told, hey, start bringing people in. And then eventually it was only bring people in with this paperwork.
And this is,
yep.
I think this is like the thing that really pisses me off about all of this, right? Because they had, like, they knew months and months beforehand. So I looked into this, right? I looked in this to a long, and we are not near the end of this story for you, right? But like, I looked into this months ago, and in November of 2020, when Trump was president, he signed the order to bring troop numbers down to 0 by February of 21. So like a month after Biden would have been in office, or a couple days, whatever, after Biden would have been in office. But the chairman of the Joint Chief came to him and was like, dude, you can't do that. Taliban's going to overrun the country. And so he's like, oh, my bad. Resends the order, maintains troop presence. Biden gets into office, and he knows all of the same stuff. I guarantee you, he is being told the exact same stuff.
Yeah.
And the people responsible for all this, like, dude, we're talking about the largest NEO operation, non-combatant evacuation operation. We've got U.S. citizens in that country. We've got people with special immigrant visas. We've got lots of stuff going on over there. We also have, you know, like embassy staff, U.S. personnel, like all sorts of people that are over there doing all sorts of things that need to get the hell out of that country. And you would think that they would have the unit, particularly maybe while you're in Kuwait, even, to have some sort of a class on the paperwork. Did you guys get a full layout? I mean, did they even be like, hey, if this goes down, because what month did you get to Kuwait?
We got to Kuwait at the start of August, I believe.
So August 1, and your wheels up to go to Kabul was when?
August 13th.
Okay, so 2 weeks.
Yeah.
During that 2-week time span, did they go over a layout of the base and the security protection measures and all that stuff that were in place, yes, like label the different gates, everything else? Nobody thought of being like, hey, paperwork.
That wasn't up to us. We were in charge of security. You got to talk to State Department for that.
Right. As if State Department is going to be standing at the gate screening all of that paperwork.
Yeah.
But what pisses me off, right, is because you heard about the ISIS dudes that got arrested in Oklahoma a couple weeks back?
Yes.
Okay, so one of them got out on one of those flights.
Yeah.
Without a SIV.
Yep.
Without a special immigrant visa. So I know for a fact the screening process wasn't all that amazing.
It was a lax screening process. We had specifics, and then towards the end of our time in Afghanistan, the last couple days, we kind of just let everybody in. We told them they could only have one bag with them. No paperwork screening from what I know.
What?
Well, okay, let me rephrase that. I'm sure they did paperwork screening, but from where I was at Northgate, we didn't look at paperwork. It was you in the crowd, pat you down, search your bag, send you on your way.
But even then, that's like a lack of efficiency.
Yeah.
Because now you're sending people into the secured area because you guys are the outer perimeter.
Mm-hmm.
How are they getting in between Northgate and the frickin' Tarmac to where everybody's getting screened?
I've got some pictures that I can show you at some point, but we were basically just walking them in a line. Just, 10-ish, maybe 10 Marines, just walking a group of 50 some people.
And you got like Marines that are just constantly rotating groups through to drop them off.
Yeah.
Dude, that is a walk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That job sucks.
Yeah. Certainly.
I'm assuming you guys took turns.
Yeah, we took turns. We had a good rotation. Not at the start. The start was all hands on deck until
Yeah, until you can
But
figure it out. Yeah.
yeah, eventually we got into a good routine. So we it got streamlined towards the end for sure.
All right, man. Ah, dude, how long did things keep up like that for you, where you guys are just like, you get in the swing of things, you're moving people back and forth, and
Um, I'd say we were doing that for about a week straight.
wow.
Mhm.
And at what point did you change your socks?
As soon as I could, probably day four or
Day
five.
4 or 5 days until you can finally. Wow, dude.
Mhm.
All right, man. Okay, cool. So you got a fresh pair of socks on finally. You're rotating people through. What else? Like, I mean, just in general, that's miserable.
Yeah,
And like back here in the States, you know, we saw pictures. I want to say like one of the pictures was actually from North Gate, where it was like somebody trying to throw their baby over the damn wall.
yeah, there was a lot of that. It was,
What do you do?
you know, there was only so much we could do. Eventually we were told, hey, stop taking the kids because we don't know what to do. If we keep taking these babies and these kids over the fence and stuff, they're going to be separated from their parents. We have no documents on them. We have no idea what to do. So eventually we were just told to stop taking kids like that.
That is so heartbreaking, dude.
And it was really bad this Northgate because there was like a canal next to the gate itself, and they didn't, you know, nobody brought food or water, so there were several heat casualties, um, several dead kids in the canal right next to where we were. So that was shocking to say the least.
You know, man, like I spent a couple years in that country, you know, like out and about, and they were normally really good about that, like type of stuff, you know, like there was one place I was at where if we like schwacked some dudes and we didn't want their bodies anymore after we finished processing biometrics and stuff, we could just dump them in the middle of a market and people would pick them up right away
Mm-hmm.
and figure out and get them to their families or get them buried or, you know, whatever, whether or not they want to claim them. Only time I ever saw bodies actually left lying there was when we're owning the battle space, like actual combat, and we're taking things over, or we're setting up camp and then there's just bodies laying out there. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's not something that you normally see around all of those people. Like that, like the state of mind of them at that point. And like even like you got to picture it too, man. Like their parents had to have been out there at some point. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and so like, you know, you had mentioned like pushing a dude earlier because he took a bottle of water from a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think people like, I'm able to immediately in my brain see that and go, this makes sense. You know, because I have personally done things like that and saw either boys or grown men do the exact same thing. But you're talking about something entirely different, which is there's dead kids floating in a freaking canal with crowds of people, and you're trying to keep the damn kids or at least give them a shot.
Yeah.
Dude, that is so heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm. And the I think the worst thing that I saw while I was there was we were kind of on the outer perimeter of Northgate where we had sea wire set up, and it was nighttime, and they were trying to get through the sea wire. This was early on, like day 2 or 3, and I saw a guy just like push like a 12-year-old girl into sea wire, so he didn't get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure it was his kid, and it was bone chilling hearing her scream.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
excuse me.
No, you're good, bro.
Oh man. Yeah, so that was definitely the worst of it.
It's messed up, man.
Yeah.
It's messed up. I hate that like that culture exists within that country.
Mm-hmm.
That like things like that are acceptable.
Yeah.
The way I've seen children treated over there is just so freaking ridiculous, man.
Mm-hmm.
And like, even when I saw like child soldiers, you know, if you want to call them that,
Mm-hmm.
like, and you don't know beforehand, you know, afterwards, you know, like you do not know 100% of the time who is shooting at you and vice versa. So you get to figure it out after the fact most of the time. And yeah, there's a lot of hate in my heart for their parents.
Yeah.
A lot.
So there's a separate gate right next to North Gate, basically where we kick people out if they didn't have the proper documents.
Yep.
And I was kicking a guy out, and he was like, "No, I have documents. I have documents." Like, dude, they're not the right ones. You can't be here. I'm like, "Oh no, what if I go? Like my documents are with my family. What if I just like get on a plane now?" I'm like, "Dude, you're gonna leave your family here. You're gonna leave your wife and your kids here. Will you go off to America?" He's like, "Yeah, I can get another family." I'm like, "What the is wrong with you?"
I know a guy that did that.
Yeah,
It might have been the same guy now that you mention it.
same guy. I remember his face.
If I showed you a picture of his face, would you know it?
Yeah, good chance.
I will not share it on this podcast, but I'll share it with you afterwards because I'm curious if those are the words he used. Anyways, moving on. But it sounds like something he would have said, to be perfectly honest. So now I'm wondering if it wasn't. All right. Dude, how did that girl get like out of the wire?
I don't know.
I'm sorry, I'm stuck on it. How did she get out of the wire?
I think we had our corpsman help out. Um, I think, I mean, I know she didn't die because we would have heard something about it because I was, everyone could see what was going on, but I don't, we're pretty sure she got out of it.
But it's like, how do you not like, I'm sorry, man. Like me personally, like if I was over there, either, I don't even give a shit if it was when I was a team guy or if I was in the infantry and I seen some shit like that. Like that's like a snatch and grab and beat the freaking brakes off of them in order to control the situation. Like it's not a right because it's you have to maintain control. And if like you're being weak in any way, they'll overrun, they'll do anything, and so there's got to be some control. What was the ROEs like for you? You know, like if people are breaching the wall, or if people are like overrunning, or if like what the hell type of ROE did you have for these? Like what tools could you use? Did you guys even have CS?
Yeah, we had CS.
Good.
We did not have gas masks, so that was a fun experience to deal with.
It's not bad.
No, it's not. But when there's 9 CS grenades to get thrown 10 feet in front of you and the wind blows back,
while you're sweaty and stinky and like it's just soaking in. Yeah, it blows. All right. Yeah, no, we used to no, I'm not going to talk about doing dumb things, but yeah, man, no, that blows. Okay, so you guys were allowed to do that. Like at least you had some CS, you had some other stuff. Did you guys have to deploy often, like multiple times a day, or was it just like every now and then, like a couple here and there?
I think we only deployed CS 2 or 3 times. I know one time was at North Gate. I think we had 2 times when we were dealing with the airfield. We had to deploy CS. But a lot of what we had were stinger grenades and flashbangs.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we had a lot of. So
flashbangs,
those like candy.
Yeah, no, flashbangs will work sometimes, like with people. Like if you chuck them up and they go off over their head, like sometimes it'll get their attention. But after that, like they get used to them.
Yeah, we definitely noticed that. The first 2 or 3, the crowd was at Northgate. The crowd was like backing up a bit and calming down, and then eventually they just didn't care.
Right. Yep. That's CS.
Yeah. Fun fact: flashbangs can indeed be lethal.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yep.
We
I had,
there was an incident at Northgate where a flashbang was thrown and some poor civilian didn't survive.
did it go off next to his head?
It went off in front of his chest.
Oh, that sucks.
So, yeah, we had corpsmen scrambling to try to get to him. We eventually got him in, but there was nothing the corpsman can do.
Well, I mean, so again, that blows. So they have like, was it a 9-banger or a single?
That I believe that one was a single. I don't think we got to.
So the single ones are worse, right? Because they just have a large freaking blasting cap inside. Like that's all it is. And that blasting cap is surrounded by freaking metal, and then it's got the holes in there. And so when that blasting cap goes off, it does throw shrapnel. Yep. Like it doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what happened? Did he get pierced? I'm assuming by like peppered, probably.
No.
No. What happened?
It must have exploded like an inch from his chest because he was missing a lung by the time I saw him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you could see his rib cage, and it was gruesome.
Interesting. I mean, I've had one blow because well, no, that was a 9-banger, not a single. So I say I had one blow like a chunk of my boot off once doing CQB, but never. Yeah. Anyways.
No, I don't think his lung was missing, but you know.
Yeah, it exposed it.
His ribs
popped him
were
up.
visible. There was a lot of crimson.
Yep. Okay. All right. I mean, it's a part of the job, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Really at the end of the day, and it's collateral damage to trying to maintain crowd control because, and people get upset over things like that, but like you literally have to think of it that way. Number one, as if I don't do this, then more death can occur. It's a unfortunate series of events that just had to happen. So
yeah, and that took me a long time to understand after the fact.
Right.
We did what we had to do when we had to do it.
All right. So, I mean, I got to ask about it, man. What do you know about Abbey?
I know that we had positive ID on the bomber. I know that.
Did you hear that over the net?
No.
Okay.
This is all after the fact from
okay
interviews.
Okay.
We at the time we were told essentially nothing. We I don't believe we were told about the bombing for like a couple hours after the fact. We were just so focused on the people in Northgate.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, all I know is from watching interviews from the guys that were there. Positive ID, ordered not to shoot, and then the rest is history.
You know what pisses me off, though? Like, as a sniper, what really pisses me off, like even on the conventional side as a sniper, you have trigger criteria, right? Like you are told what is acceptable and what is not. And what pisses me off because of how sensitive of a situation that is that they weren't given authorization once they have PID to pull the trigger.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous.
But to me, though, that is a fog of war mistake with a bunch of shit that goes on. Things like that happen. Like I hate to say it, but to me, that was allowed to be the bigger distraction than everything else. And I'm not going to say who he was. I was talking to one of the fathers of one of the Marines, and it was like when the congressional investigation and everything was going on into it, they wanted to focus on who the ground force commander was. Who was it that sniper was, you know, who's denying this, you know, then that was like the attention that they wanted to have. And I'm like, you guys are barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah.
That sniper and those Marines should have never been there in the first place. And they sure shouldn't have been as ill-equipped as they were. And they sure should have had a hell of a lot better planning and packaging done. Like, it is a fail on a much larger scale. And as much as I hate to say it, like, some forgiveness for that commander is probably in order. He feels bad enough as it is for not green lighting it. Same thing for the sniper for not just telling his freaking commander to like suck it and pull the trigger anyways. Because truthfully, in that position, he could have probably took the shot and just not said a word.
Yeah.
Like, if we're being honest, right? Like, and you don't think about it at the time because you got all these other things. But so I'm sure he ate a lot inside of his head as well. But the problem is just how woefully unprepared they sent you guys in.
Mm-hmm. It was.
Do you know how bad it was, dude? I was sitting on my couch. I had just retired. And I was sitting on my couch, and it was so bad that there was a text message thread on Signal that was going around amongst like other team guys. If you have your passport and are able to go wheels up in 48 hours from X location, then you'll make, what was it, like $5,000 a day or something for the foreseeable future to go over there and do that. Like, they literally, that's how unprepared our government was, that they were reaching out for us.
Yeah.
$5,000 plus a day, whatever the hell it was, just to go wheels up within 48 because they hadn't planned.
Yeah. There's actually so little planning going on that at one point we ran out of food because we were giving it all to the civilians. So my Marines and my guys didn't have MREs. We had to ask the Germans and the Australians for their MREs. And eventually, once the Germans left, we just took the MREs that they had left over.
Sure.
Because all of our food and all of our water was going to the civilians that we were trying to evacuate.
So what was it like? At what point did you guys start backing out? Like, and you knew like, hey, tomorrow we're going to go wheels up and get out of here. Like, what was that like? Because I mean, you got to start. I think the other thing that people fail to figure is that you have to start collapsing back and retrograding, like your perimeter lines and security and everything else. And eventually there's going to be a marching order and last boot off the ground. Right. So yeah. What was that like?
It was pretty interesting. I think what we were told is we need to be out of the country by the 9/11 anniversary. That's what we were told. And from what I understand, we were told that by the Taliban. We need to be out of country by the anniversary of 9/11. So that's what we intended to do. And so with 3 days before we left, we closed all the gates and didn't let anybody else in and just held security pretty much until we left.
You guys had an intel warning from the Taliban.
Yes, we were working with the Taliban. They were essentially, towards the end, they were our quote unquote first line of security before civilians got to the gates.
I'm sorry. Say that again.
We were ordered to work with the Taliban to try to evacuate Afghanistan civilians.
How the hell did you even link up with them?
I didn't have any direct, I'm sure a lot of our guys didn't have direct interaction with the Taliban. We were basically told, hey, they're going to be over here. Don't fuck with them. And they're going to leave us alone. That's essentially what we were told.
How far away are we talking? 100 meters, 550?
Within 100. I remember we were on a berm at Northgate holding security during rotation, and there was a group of like 30 or 40 Taliban, like less than 100 feet away, just standing there. And we were just waiting because we didn't know what they were going to do. It was bad. 20 years of war, we ended up working with them.
Oh, bro, you have no idea. Did you guys, I'm assuming you had a Terp with you over at the gate, right?
Kind of, sort of.
You guys didn't even have a Terp? Or did you have like a local national that could kind of speak English that you were like, yo, get over here. I'm going to give you food and water. I need you to talk to me.
Yeah, kind of. I wasn't, most of what I did was security based and searches and stuff. So,
do you know if they actually went over to go engage with the Taliban? Like yeah.
I don't know for certain, but I do remember seeing several little birds take off. And then a couple hours later, I do remember seeing a bunch of houses on the side of the hill on fire. So I'm assuming that's what that was.
And when you say the side of the hill, you're talking about that ridge line that overlooks the base, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I had to put that together in my mind map real quick.
Yeah.
So little birds meaning tiny little helicopters that cool guys hang out of.
Oh, yeah.
Pick up and go land up over there on the ridge line. And then leave, and there's a bunch of stuff on fire.
Yep.
Okay. So you have a platoon of Taliban hanging out about 50 meters away from you.
There was nothing we could do. We were told not to engage unless we were shot at first. And I'll tell you right now, a lot of my guys were waiting for that chance. And, you know, thankfully, I guess it never came. But we were working with the Taliban. What an oxymoron that is.
So they weren't supposed to enter into Kabul until everybody had left, by the way.
Yep.
And I remember seeing a massive amount of money that got thrown their way at one point in time in order to ensure that that happened. Did they do anything to the local nationals that were walking past them? Did they interact with them at all?
Yeah. There was a lot of document checking. At some point, the Taliban completely closed off entry on one or more gates. Basically, like they were outside the gate and they just stopped people from getting to the gate. I know that happened a couple times. So they were supposed to be helping us evacuate these people, but essentially they were searching and targeting.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
How long did that happen for?
I think, I don't know. I don't remember the timeline. I think it was the second week we were there. So that last week we were told not to talk to, do not interact with the Taliban. They are...
Don't fraternize with the enemy.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. Oh, I can tell you a story. Okay. God, dude. And this is why we have to have these conversations. I don't think anybody is aware of what you just... Are you aware of anywhere that ever being reported before? Like anybody ever talking about that? That's the first I've actually heard somebody be like, yo, the Taliban was 50 meters away helping us screen people that were supposed to be coming to the base.
I know the Marine sniper that was at Abbey Gate. I know he talked about it on Sean Ryan on his show. Other than that, I think that's the only instance where I've seen that mentioned.
Okay. Well, I'm glad this is what we call dual sourcing information. So now we have two eyewitness accounts confirming the same thing, which is amazing because a bunch of these piece of shit generals are about to get fired. So
that's what I'm looking for. Cause you know, we did the best that we could with the situation, the equipment we were given, and it was a total failure of higher leadership. And I think it's quite frankly, shameful that these generals have not been fired for their absolute failure.
So the Taliban, you get told you got to be pulled out by September 11th, and the word comes down that the Taliban is the one that warned you guys got to be out by September 11th.
Yeah.
I am really curious if we were to go back and look at the news feed. Have you done that yet for like when you guys were supposed to be out of there, like last person off the ground, and see what that actually said?
No, I haven't looked at that.
I would almost
We were the last company to leave as well.
get the God, I would almost bet, and I can't wait to hear about that. I would almost bet that if we were to go back and look at like the news reporting from back then, that it was like, this is the date that we had set for ourselves. When in reality, the Taliban's dictating the entire thing after taking all of our money and fucking schwacking people outside the gates.
From what I understand, yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Real strong foreign policy there. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So talk to me about pulling back. How the hell did you guys get out of there? I've played that over in my mind so many times. How the hell did you get the hell out of there?
We basically just continuously collapsed the perimeter, and my favorite part, we were told to clean up the airport for the Taliban. That was fun to try to argue with.
Say what?
Yes, we were given orders by the officer in charge of HKIA. He gave us orders to clean up the airfield before we left.
Like pick up, like police call, pick up trash and sweep?
Yes.
You have got to be shitting me, dude.
Swear to God. We were told to clean it. We didn't end up cleaning. Well, we cleaned it.
I would have taken a dump in the middle of it.
Yeah. You know,
I would have spread feces on the wall.
No, it was already on the wall. Because we didn't have enough stuff. There's already shit on the walls.
Right. And I'm assuming you like there was a room where people are just taking dumps in.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know why I know that? Because I've seen it before. Mm-hmm. I've done it before. Like it is so ridiculous that they would give you an order to clean up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to know who that jackwagon was. Like, I don't know if he's ever been outside the wire in the country, but let me tell you something. I promise no matter how much poop was smeared on the walls or how much trash was on the ground, it does not equate for how absolutely disgusting Kabul is as a city. What an effing jerk.
Yeah, and it was wild because at the same time we were told to clean up the airfield, we were also trying our best to destroy equipment that we couldn't take with us, and we were just leaving that there. So it was weird. Trying
your best, meaning there's like, here's the other thing that pissed me off, right? Because I remember watching videos of you guys, like, because some dudes would leak some stuff out.
Yep.
Literally smashing instrument panels.
Yeah. Smashing instrument panels, driving over 240s, trying to destroy as much equipment as we could.
Was it like TPE, like theater specific equipment that was just like left over there? Like,
I'm sorry, what do you mean?
So you have like unit organic equipment, right? Mm-hmm. So like, you know, like whatever belonged to 1-8 belongs to 1-8 and you guys can deploy with that. But when units also arrived in country, we had what was called like TPE or theater specific equipment. And that TPE stayed in theater and it would go from, you know, team to team or company to company, whatever it is. It's like rotating through. So was that shit that like 240 Bravos, by the way, belt fed 7.62 millimeter machine gun fires up to 800 rounds a minute, depending on the version. Some of them have a fixed gas block now. The old ones didn't. 600 to 800 rounds a minute, belt fed freaking machine gun. Don't want to leave it behind. And all you could do is run over this thing with a truck.
Yeah, tried to bend as much of the parts as we could, destroyed it. But all of the stuff that we destroyed was stuff that was going to be left behind anyway. Like that wasn't
correct.
That wasn't company stuff.
Correct. So it's a bunch of TPE that gets left behind.
Yep.
That's what it is. Bunch of TPE left behind. And we didn't plan a way to demo it.
Yeah. I think we left over $1 billion worth of equipment in Afghanistan.
Like, was this just one of those things where they're like, hey guys, we found some MGs laying around and we just need you to get rid of them. Have fun.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it went down for that. I've got a video on my phone I can send you later, of my buddy walking around the warehouse, just busted up 240s all over the ground. He just left them.
So the other day, right, I was checking out videos from Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, and I forget the version of what it is, but the saw, the M249 saw, like the shorter, like airborne version, jumpable, I forget what the hell we called it, but he had a brand new one. So for ladies and gentlemen that aren't listening, it's another belt-fed machine gun. Only it shoots 5.56, or the same round that like an M4 or an M16 shoots. Brand new one with a freaking EOTech on it in southern Lebanon.
Yeah, that
clearly U.S. government inventory.
Yeah, high likelihood that came from the airport.
And right, wow, cool, man. Well, did you at least have fun doing it? I mean, I would have had a freaking blast.
Oh yeah, I had a great time.
Like that makes
stuff all over the place.
Yeah, just busting stuff up. That's like a rage house on steroids.
Mm-hmm.
Like great. People pay good money for that, and you got paid for it, so that's good.
Exactly.
What was like? Was there anything that like? I mean, obviously, like civilian wise, like people are like, "Oh my God, there was just machine guns lying around," and the Marines got told to run over them with a truck. I got a feeling there was more ridiculous stuff. Like, what is the most ridiculous thing that you had to demo? Or that you know that got demoed?
Let's see. I honestly think it was a couple helicopters that we tried to destroy. I'm not entirely sure on that.
Like Blackhawks, UH-60s, OH-58s, CH-47s. What are we talking about here?
I don't remember exactly. I think there were they weren't American helicopters, but they were at the base.
They were the training ones for the GANs.
That would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's fair. I know like that school in particular, like we had contractors that were teaching them how to fly. We had contractors that were teaching them how to run like the whatever that tower is that controls the aircraft. I'm brain farting right now, all those things, but that's cool. Destroying a helicopter. Yeah. God, man. How did you destroy it? Like how? What do you do?
I don't know. I didn't destroy it personally. Unfortunately, most of the infantry guys that were there didn't get a chance to destroy a whole lot of stuff because we were holding security.
Right.
I'll tell you one thing: all the admin Marines that were there with us, they got to take home some interesting surprises.
I'm sure they did. I'm curious. Did you get relieved on Northgate, or did you retrograde back from Northgate?
We retrograded. So we basically set up a shit ton of sea wire, and we had our combat engineers build up essentially like rebar stakes.
Mm-hmm.
Just laid them out in front of or behind the gate, and we just retrograded back.
Did you guys wave goodbye to the Taliban? Like, I gotta ask. Or like do this, because I would have had to do this. Like, I would have had to do this on freaking steroids.
There was a lot of that going on. Absolutely.
Okay, so now we're getting some truth and honesty. Who started it?
Probably us.
Like, if I know my Marines right, and you're not allowed to engage them first, but they're right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I know shenanigans.
Yeah, we one of our guys almost got into a fight with a Taliban fighter. That was bad, and it was like he almost got into a fist fight. It wasn't. That was a bad situation.
How?
He's the Taliban. They don't really have uniforms. They just look like civilians with AKs. So we were, holding security and pushing them back, and this local Taliban guy, we didn't know at the time, this local was just standing there, not moving, and one of our guys was like shoving him, like, dude, you need to fucking move, like,
Yeah.
you need to secure this area. And then one of the Turkish soldiers that was there,
Oh, dude, those guys are pieces of shit.
the guys that we were with, the Turks that we were with, were actually very, very nice. They were all SF guys, and they were very helpful for us. But they basically like tapped on his shoulders, like, dude, that's the Taliban. Do not punch him.
I don't like the Turks for a reason.
Yeah.
Number one, in 2016, when they had like the little coup inside of their country and like all of that crap was going down, and like we have like nuclear weapons that were on a base and they were like about to overrun that base and all that crap. The actual commander of HKIA, the NATO commander of HKIA at the time, was actually a Turkish officer. He disappeared in the middle of the night, jumped on a bird and frickin' left. And the second in command was a U.S. officer that was home on leave, and he had to fly back into Afghanistan. He was only home for like a day or two, so he just touched ground back in America. And then had to fly right back over to go take command because the one IC decided to disappear, or the first in charge, ladies and gentlemen, right? So 2 IC ends up going over and taking part of that. And I know that occurred because I was talking to him. He's the one that told me that happened, number one. Number two, ISIS that year issued a formal apology for blowing up some of their Muslim brothers because they accidentally hit a Turkish vehicle with an IED. Number three, the Turks continued to try to gather intelligence off of myself and my friends and what we were doing, running around HKIA. I mean, constantly.
Yeah.
They wanted names. They were adamant about trying to collect intel on what it was that we were doing. Mm-hmm. I don't like them. And on top of all of that, they took a stance against Israel going up against Hamas, which I think is one of the most ridiculous things of all time. I think Turkey ought to be kicked out of NATO.
I agree. And I've only had dealings with like 4 or 5 Turkish soldiers, and the guys that I talked to were nice. I'm trying to separate from the on the ground guys to the politics of the whole situation, because I know the guys on the ground were doing the best that they can.
Mm-hmm. Wow, dude. Okay. Well, how the hell did you get out of there?
Basically just waited. We waited till all the civilians were on C-17s, and then.
But there's no way all this, like, there had to have been like hordes of them outside the fence.
Yeah, there were, but we didn't let them in.
How did they not overrun the fence?
I have no idea. I'm pretty sure it was the Taliban at that point. They were keeping them out.
So you literally just walked on. There's like hordes of people. Got to bust apart the 240s. Run over some machine guns. Smash some stuff. Whole warehouse full of crap. By the way, don't forget to sweep the floor in the ADAG before you roll out. And it's time to go.
Yeah, it's time to go. We had I believe it was 2 incidents when we were getting ready to leave. We had 2 incoming rocket alerts. I believe one was shot down and one missed by about 2 kilometers, but we later found out that ISIS-K was the one that shot those.
I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was.
But
I'm going to hold my tongue.
It's so surreal because there was so much chaos and anarchy the first week or so, and then when we were leaving, it was like calm and it was so surreal. And we were all just like, "Can we leave? Like, there's nothing else to do here."
That's not how I pictured it.
Weird. Yeah.
It's just like,
I've got a picture that my squad took just probably like an hour before we got on the plane to leave. And, it's empty airfield with a few planes on it and us.
I would love to have that just to be able to, I remember I remember being over in like Bagram in 2012 and like how ridiculously packed that place was. Like there's a road that runs right down the middle of it, like it was called like Route Disney or whatever, ran like right down through the middle of it. And that was before, like that was after the influx of every, you know, or the surge, whatever. And so, dude, it was like like so many troops, man. It's just like rows of ants, like constantly marching up and down this thing any given time of day, you know? And then I don't remember the last time I was on HKIA. I remember the last time I was on HKIA, but I remember going in there and I think it was 2016 when I went into HKIA and being like, it has changed, you know, it's calmed down a little bit over here, you know, like it's not as wild. Like it's a little bit less people than I remember, you know? And
Yeah. It was pretty quiet when we left. It was eerie, to say the least.
how many folks were back? Like, I know you said you were the last company. Were you the last company from 1-8, or were you like one of the last dudes, like y'all were like marching out? Like, cause I'm assuming they had to have like multiple aircraft.
Yeah.
And just be like, F it, we're out, with like some dude like a 240 or a saw gunner, like just in case, like hanging off the ramp, you know, like.
I believe 1-8 was the last to leave. I don't know if our company was the last to leave, but it was pretty close. Our company commander,
I mean, it would have been a matter of minutes.
or sorry, our battalion commander has a photo of him, you know, stepping on
Yeah.
the airplane for the last time, and that was pretty close after we got on the plane.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking a matter of minutes, dude.
Yeah. And it was all crammed in the C-17.
You know what I find like really shocking though about like I've talked to you, I've talked to some dudes from the 82nd. Obviously I've talked to some of the other people. That's how I know about Tim Kennedy being a jackass. Right. And like all of these like random things that go on. But like what absolutely blows my mind about this entire thing is it's like, I didn't have to be there to know that it was going to fail.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I heard where it was going to happen, it was going to be a shit show of an operation. You guys did a fabulous job with what you were given. The fact that like America hasn't exploded yet with more ISIS fighters that made their way through, like you guys did a good job, right? Like,
Yeah.
shit, like that's a miracle, right? Like you guys did a good job there. But also, I mean, minus Abbey, like the Abbey Gate incident, also the fact that you guys were able to keep your cool to the point with the Taliban. I mean, I'd have been fucking with them. I'm not gonna lie, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I would have probably shot somebody. I don't think like me personally, I'd have that.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is such a huge risk. Like that is like armed enemy combatants 50 meters away from you.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much all of our guys were like, please do something. Please let me pull this trigger.
But you understand that like how horrible of a decision that was by our government to make that call.
Yeah.
Because the risk to your life is so high. Like I'd have been like, fuck you.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
I'd have started hosing them down because guess what? Like I've seen Afghans shoot Americans a lot.
Uh-huh.
And we're literally letting the enemy stand 50 meters away.
Mm-hmm. And we had armed, absolutely. I've got some photos of some captured PKMs that we have. Pretty standard stuff. But yeah, they were armed. They had AKs, PKMs. One guy had an RPG.
Of course he did.
I'm pretty sure his son had a backpack full of RPG warheads.
Oh, I love it. How old was his son?
Young teens.
Again, thanks for pointing that out. And I didn't even have to ask. You just happened to see it. And I was thinking beforehand, I was going to ask you, did you happen to see this? And I know what the answer is going to be at that point. Like, it just pisses me off, dude. Like, the unnecessary risk that you guys were given, I would love to, like, what? Like, was this written on a piece of fucking toilet paper?
I think it was a drunken plan you make with your friends at 2 a.m. on a napkin. That's pretty much what it felt like.
Right. I feel like I could have got, like, I bet you, like, when you were going through SOI and I was like, hey man, I bet I could have presented a fucking platoon of fucking boots and been like, I want you guys to war game a withdrawal from here and start labeling all of the different things you might think you need to make this happen. And I bet you would have came up with a better plan.
Most definitely.
Like, it's so mind-numbing, man. I want those idiots held accountable. Like, that's what I want. Like, I feel like, because they are directly responsible for every service member that lost their life on the ground there, number one. Number two, they're also responsible for all those damn dead civilians. Like, if you were to estimate how many bodies were outside Northgate at one point in time, like it's just how many that you saw hanging out outside Northgate, like kids, adults, whatever.
At Northgate 4 or 5, when people were clinging on to airplanes when they were taken off, there was a lot more than that. There was a lot of civilians. A lot of civilians died.
And where'd those bodies go? You guys just threw them over the fence? Or stacked them in the corner?
The Turks dealt with them.
So the Turks threw them over the fence or so, if that's right, because they're allowed to touch them. Yeah. Probably. Dude.
I just, it really frustrates me because I want to see leadership held accountable, and I feel like it's just been swept under the rug, and it's so frustrating to me and my friends because it was so shitty and there was so little planning and nobody's been fired. That's just ridiculous. Nobody's even been reprimanded, to my knowledge at least.
Man, hearing like that the GRF, like the Global Response Force from the 82nd, got pulled out of the field to go over there and help out tells you how poorly planned it's been. And what pisses me off is, one, obviously we have firsthand witness accounts. Like, I've got those recorded. But two, it's also on congressional record.
Yeah.
That like stuff like that occurred. Like, you guys, it makes sense, right? Like, you're over there in Kuwait, like that tracks, you know, like you're moving in ahead of time, like that tracks, that stuff tracks. But that doesn't track at all. Like, whoever it was that thought about how many personnel they're going to need to do that didn't have an accurate security assessment of that gate, because like the whole time in my mind, all I'm thinking is you got to literally have people on a knee facing out along the tarmac to make sure nobody's busting through. And thinking about that perimeter itself, dude, it's huge. It's fucking huge.
Yeah.
And all the way down at the other end of the airfield, there's a freaking, like, there's entry points all the way around that airfield.
Yeah. We didn't have control of all of them. I think we had control of the tarmac pretty much. The US did. I know other coalition forces held security at other positions, but we basically had the tarmac.
But again, like, I don't know who the hell approved this plan and was like, oh, this is how many we need. Mm-hmm. They failed miserably. And the plan to withdraw from there, absolutely stupid. I'm trying to remember who it was that tried telling me like, well, Bagram's like surrounded by mountains, you know, so I'm like, cool. We've also been landing massive aircraft there for a very long period of time. And it's also really secure. And you have several fallback positions within there. And like just so many things. And if high ground's your worry, like you had just described, you know, earlier on about like the buildings and stuff being on fire, you've got that there. It's the same security issue. Now, the only difference between Bagram is like the height of those, which you don't take off and land in the direction of them unless you like, and I've seen fast movers do it to where like they come off and they like rip ass out of there, but it's an airfield. They thought that through, man, you know?
It should have been Bagram. Using a civilian airport was a horrible mistake.
Well, they didn't. I'm trying to think because I remember watching everything unfold. I think you guys were already on the ground conducting the NEO when the embassy ended up deciding to evac.
Yeah, they were. I think they evac'd the second day we were there, and we helped them. We helped them unload from Chinooks and stuff.
I think that's why it happened at HKIA, and I think that. Well, no, that's not true because they closed BAF.
Bad situation all around.
Oh man, bro, I can't thank you enough for coming on.
Yeah, I saw you posted on Instagram that video. I saw like an hour after you posted. I'm like, dude, I got to do this.
I'm so happy. Like, I'm so happy that you were able to like tell this. I don't mean that like I'm happy that you went through that. I mean, I'm happy you had the balls to like do this. Like, it's freaking hard.
Yeah. I feel like this has been buried and so much has gone wrong. And I just want to try to get the truth out there as much as I can, which is why I decided to come on.
Right.
I really appreciate you having me on because I want people to know what actually happened.
Like, what happened when you guys got home?
Getting home was probably the worst part. I think we got home pretty quickly. We went back stateside pretty quickly after Afghanistan. I think we had 2 weeks of decompression time in Kuwait, and then we were on a plane back to the States. I think it was really frustrating because pretty soon after we got back to the States, we're back in, post-deployment, garrison, living situation stuff. And, our command was just telling us that what we did in Afghanistan didn't mean anything. And we didn't do anything important. And you guys went to Afghanistan. You guys think you're hard shit. And it was just so disheartening. It's part of the reason why I got out. It's so disheartening going through literally having our first sergeant tell us that nobody has any idea what's going to happen while we're there.
Right.
And getting back and him being like, you guys didn't do anything important. Nobody cares. It was heartbreaking for me.
What a fucking douchebag NCO.
It was pretty much our whole command was basically like, you guys didn't do anything important. Afghanistan wasn't anything. You guys aren't hot shit. You guys still suck. It was frustrating.
What the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
So something I learned about those people, like they're really insecure. Like really insecure inside. Really insecure. Dude, I'll tell you, out of all of the things I've done, I feel like I haven't done shit. I feel like I haven't done enough. I feel like I'm not good. Like I want to know why I'm still alive some days. Like, why did God choose me to be alive? Mm-hmm. I fought hard. I did my best. Why am I still here? But like, at the same time, you could be humble enough to be like, I didn't do that. Like, like I didn't like shit, man. Mm-hmm. Like, again, like I told you, like bro, I've been in, like, I can show you video after video after video. Like I've probably got more time pulling triggers and fucking combat than most people do in garrison.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like I have literally like I've got the videos and pictures to prove it. Like literally fucking like knee high in brass.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing has scared me more in my fucking life than when I was like faced with a wall crowd under PVS 14s and fucking burning tires. And like, it's wild what it does to your psyche. And people don't realize it. Yeah. They really don't. I would also argue too, like, you know, there's people out there that'd be like, oh, indirect fire. That ain't shit. It's like, says who? Like, clearly you've never been bracketed before. Because once you've been bracketed and there's nowhere for you to go, that's some scary shit. Because all you got to do is stand there and take it. And like, I'm so tired of these freaking tough dudes, like the tough dudes that are like, you know, pretend like their shit don't stink and like, oh, dude, it drives me nuts. It drives me nuts. Because there's guys like you, there's guys like everybody out there, man. Like, bro, the fucking balls it takes to stand 50 meters away from the Taliban, number one, and like the fucking amount of anxiety that I would have not to pull a trigger. Like, I would feel better ghosting every single one of them as quickly as possible and not lose a wink of sleep. Mm-hmm. That would fucking bother me 24/7 with those idiots staying there. Like, I would like, oh, fuck that, dude. I would have a belt fed pointed at them at like all fucking times. Like,
we did, at least in Northgate, we had two belt feds in two separate towers. We had snipers set up. We were ready. We were ready for a fight. We were looking forward to a fight. But, you know,
like, I'd have chucked a fucking flashbang and been like, oh, one of them shot, and just mowed every fucking one of them down.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, fuck that. I'm sorry. I would have never done such a thing. I would have never done such a thing.
Allegedly.
Wow, dude. No, that, dude. That pisses me off.
Yeah.
You know, like, that sort of pisses me off. And again, it goes back, which is the whole reason why I started the podcast. I'm really happy that you're here as like the first dude that we're going up, which, by the way, like, I've got names of people, like known names or whatever, but it's not the point. You know, like, that's a huge
really honored to be here.
That's a huge deal, bro. And I don't think people understand it. Like, and I don't think they'll ever understand like the psyche that like goes through with having to do those things. Mm-hmm. And like, it's not like, it is a long period of time. Like, it is a long duration, is a long adjustment to do all of that for so long. And then to like come back, in my mind, I'm pissed at how it went down in general. And then in our government's mind, they're like, hey, we're just going to blame this ground force commander for not giving a green light.
Yeah.
That pissed me off.
It's ridiculous.
Especially when I probably, if I go and I look for it, still have the text on my phone. You want to make a couple grand a day? Fly out tomorrow. You know, yeah. Like, that's how fucked up we were.
It was bad. And it just,
did you at least get a certificate of achievement or like an attaboy or a cool patch commemorating? Did you bring anything cool back for yourself that you can like hold on to?
I brought some stuff back. I got a patch in my car that I brought back. But I think it took a year or so, but I think 1-8 got a puck. It was either a puck or a muck, but they got that.
Presidential unit citation or meritorious unit citation. That's great. So the unit got an award. Did any individual Marines within your company get recognized for doing a good job for anything?
Yes, I believe it was mostly higher enlisted and officers. I think. No
way.
Yeah, crazy. A couple of them got. I think one of them got a Bronze Star. But you know, we all got combat action ribbons for what happened on the tarmac because we were actually getting shot at and we returned fire at some point. So,
sure. And I'm sure it's just like, zing, pop, pop, zing, snap. It's like shit going in here. Like, I have no fucking clue. Like, dude, fuck them, man. And you know what's funny about like the whole thing, right? Like, now here at the end, like after we talk through the whole story, and I'm asking about the, and this is, again, this is the shit that people don't understand, right? This is the shit that people don't understand. Like people that like prior to watching this would have probably been like, you know what? I think if there was gunfights, he would have talked about him at this point. Or if people like there was shooting that was going on or bullets flying, you know, like he would have said something about that at some point. And then you just randomly throw it out at the end because it really is an afterthought.
Yeah. There was, I mean, at least for me, there was we only had one incident where we had to pull the trigger back, and that was pretty early on. And that was an afterthought for the rest of the 2 weeks we were there.
Right. It's an afterthought. Yeah. Like it's not the name of the game. And that's actually why, like, I ended up like, I was like, what the hell am I going to call this? It's got to be understanding war, man. Because people don't get war. They don't. Like, I promise, like, bro, I don't know you from Adam until we started talking today. Mm-hmm. I know what would bother, like, I'm assuming that there is way worse things that happen to you than exchanging gunfire in your mind, like things that bother you more than being shot at, right?
Yeah.
Which is why it's an afterthought.
Exactly.
People don't get that. And that's like the whole purpose of like, they don't. Like 99% of the time you are doing what you're talking about, which is just kind of adjusting fire as you go. And when I don't mean like adjusting fire on target, I mean like,
yeah.
You know, like, hey, like, you know, I've got
this, and then work on that.
Yes, I'm going from here, and then okay, so cool. This paperwork, no, not that paperwork. Oh shit, we're just gonna pile people in. Great. Oh, next thing I know, I'm working with the Taliban. Great. Hey, there's a line of freaking Afghans running across the airfield. Guess I got to deal with that. Oh, bodies are falling out of the sky on the tarmac. Just leave them until the Turks figure it out. You know, like. It doesn't register to people how chaotic that actually is. And when you're living in it, like when you're actually living in it and you're walking through it, it's like, yep, that makes sense. You know, it's another day. And it takes a long time for you to like actually get back afterwards and be like, wow, that was really fucked up.
Yeah. I think, at least for me, it took me about 6 months after we got back stateside to be like, what the what just happened? That was surreal.
Dude, I had an incident once. Years. It took years for me to figure this out. Or yeah, no, years. So, but it didn't bother me at all at the time. I mean, it did in the gunfight that I was in. It bothered me, right? So, I was in a gunfight, and there was a dishka shooting. I did not have my helmet on because I was like resting. Mm-hmm. And like gunfight starts, grab body armor, throw body armor on. And I'm like worried about my buddies who are in the tower. There wasn't that many of us that were out there, but like really good friends of mine are in this tower, right? Like looking at them. And all I see is like wood chunks flying. You know what I mean? Like just shit like going out the backside. One of the dudes is like on the ground, like couldn't return fire because it was like so fucking heavy on there, right? And so like I run into my tent, which was like 10 feet away or whatever, grab my kit, throw my body armor on, run up, and we had this little like catwalk about yay big, right? Like maybe a foot, maybe catwalk around the outside of the tower. And ran up the little jankety ass wooden stairs that we had leading up to it and just throw my rifle over the wall. See the muzzle flash coming off the dishka. It's very distinct for those that have never been shot at by a dishka. It's like, it's like kind of, I describe it like a flower because it's just like 4 distinct like lines from the muzzle brake on it. Right. And, I remember seeing this like flower out there. I was like, shit. Not paying attention to what's impacting here right next to me. I'm just like, boys are going to back me up. I'm going to be solid, right? You know? So like, here's Matt's dumbass, like sling rifle over the wall, adjust, you know, like adjust for freaking range and just start sending them, right? And I tore through that first mag pretty quick. And then I duck down behind the wall, do a mag change, come back up, pop back up, and a Dishka round goes like right. I mean, Dishka round just, and you know it's a Dishka round because of how freaking loud it is. You know, like I can't describe that enough. Like literally, like just like in my hair.
Huge round.
Huge round in my hair. And I was like, and I ducked down below the wall, put my helmet on. I brought it with me. I just didn't have the common sense to wear it at the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to check out, I know in the Army, we call it CIF or the Central Issuing Facility, Marine Corps, same deal?
Same deal. We call it CIF. Yeah.
CIF. Yep. All right. So I'm going to check out from CIF. And there was a picture on the wall from World War II of a dude holding, and again, years later. Years. Never bothered me one bit. It was an afterthought. And I was kind of happy because I also got to kill that guy, right? It's like that happened. So it was a good day. Like I was in good spirits, right, bro?
Absolutely.
But years later, dude, years later, I'm standing in SIF and like there's a soldier from World War II holding up one of those old steel K-pots, like the old steel helmets. And it's got a freaking rifle round through it, like from side to side. And it was like, again, you know, round passed right on the right side of my head. And I see the K-pot, you know, the picture of the guy holding up a steel K-pot with a hole in it. And he's smiling. And all I could think of is, well, that's not what mine are made out of. And it dawned on me, boom. Had my dumb ass been wearing my helmet, that round would have got caught in that helmet, would have easily broke my neck. Easily. Like the kinetic energy on that thing. And if it didn't, it would have deflected. Dude, it would have rattled my brain.
Yeah.
I'm alive because I was a dumbass and didn't wear a helmet in a firefight.
Sometimes that's how it works.
That blew my mind. And that only dawned on me when I saw that. That fucked me up bad. I don't know why it did, but like something that simple, you know, like it's just random shit, man. And like years later, years.
Yeah.
But you know what makes it better is by having discussions and talking about it. So
absolutely.
I'm a big proponent of it. Like I think that if you're not talking like to your family or your loved ones or like whoever it is, like they can't understand you as a person.
Yeah.
Like your parents.
The way I see it, communication is key, and I've tried to be as open and honest as I can with my family and my friends about what happened and what I experienced, so I could try to explain as best I can to them.
Yeah, and you should. Like that's a good thing. What like the folks that are like the folks are like, oh, you're just bragging, or it's just, you know, it's no, it's not. It's like literally they love you and they care about you and they need to hear from you. Like they want to know you as a man and a person. They want to know those things so that they can understand you just like anybody would. But for some reason as vets, we're like, you know what? Nope. That part of my life, you don't get to know about, even though it makes up a pretty big chunk of who I am, you know, and you can't sit back here and lie about it either years later. That like the moment that you end up seeing that, you're like, I gotta, you know, like, no, it does. It is that part of you. And I guarantee you everybody else on the ground there felt that, whether or not they're like a major part of it or like lesser part, like seeing that type of shit and being in the middle of it, it's not normal. You know, and it's going to make up a chunk of who you are. It's going to make up the way you think. It's going to make up the way you feel. It's going to make up the way you react to things sometimes. I mean, it just is. So it drives me nuts. Like I encourage people, like tell stories, like talk to people, you don't have to get in the nitty gritty. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, I definitely censored what happened talking to my family, but
you have to, but you can still like explain like I don't know, like, feel? So I went to get checked out for I forget what it is that you get from, is it Hep B, from like ingesting blood or getting it in your eyes and stuff like that? Or no, Hep B comes from fecal matter. Hep C, I think, whatever. I wanted to get my blood screened because at one point in time I had Taliban blood in my mouth. Right. And it took me a while to like go in. And this is like old Matt back, like when I didn't want to talk about things. And what's funny is I think my buddy actually married this chick who was like the doctor over a group or PA or whatever. Anyways, they're together now on social media. So, so anyways, I'm in there with her. Right. And like, I go to, and like, I went in for whatever. And I'm like, yo, can I please get checked for these things? And she's like, why do you feel the need to get checked for those? And I was like, well, I ingested blood. And she goes, whose blood? And I was like, it was Taliban blood. And she goes, now you tell me, how did Taliban blood get in your mouth? Like she thinks I'm fucking with her. And I'm like, okay. And so I break the story down for her. And she just looks at me with like the shock and awe on her face. And she's like, why would you wait so long to get checked out for this? I'm like, if you saw how you looked now, that's why. Mm-hmm. Because I can't just walk in here and be like, my bad, you know? You're like, cool, yeah. Let me check you, you know, because of how you're looking at me now. And so like, it is like, it's like, it's a fine balance of like, you know, like making sure you're not doing too much versus whatever, but it is important for people to know those things. And like, also, you know, at the time of that, like I was married to my ex-wife and that was probably something I should have talked to her about, you know, like, but
I could see. Yeah.
Right. Anyways. Yeah, dude, it was great having you.
Yeah. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. We're going to
really appreciate your time.
Yeah. If it, anything you want people to like if there was one thing, like any closing statement thought, like if one thing you could get across to people about like either that, your entire experience, like what is it? Like,
I think I'll go with this. I think I'll go with a lot of people don't want to join the military because they don't want to die, right? That's whenever I talk to people, that's what I hear. What I try to tell people is there are so many good opportunities in the military where you don't need to go to combat. Everybody who's an MSG, Marine Security Guard, they all have TS. All of them have top secret clearance, which sets them up for a job later on.
Right.
There's so many, you know, you can be a mechanic. There's so many jobs that'll set you up for your life in the future that I think people should really think about, because the military is more than just war. It's fixing things. It's helping people. And I want people to try to understand a little bit better.
My proudest moment was getting an all-girls school reopen.
That's amazing.
Right? And like
incredible.
And people would think that it's going to be something like amazing and everything else. But no, I was the most proud of the work that I did, knowing that girls were going to be going to school because of what we did. Mm-hmm. This is an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
Like, shit, man. I love it. That's perfect. I love it. It's not about war. Like it kind of is, but it's not, you know, like people don't get that.
At the end of the day, it's about helping people.
Right. Fact.
I see it as.
It's like, it doesn't matter what our governments are doing or like what anybody else. It's just like, cool, man. Well, I'm going to be here to do this. So love it, man. Love it. Thanks for coming, bro. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much.